Hey, Countdown to the Geeks. We are here today. This time it's not comics. This time we're talking with an actor and a basketball player that's been in the industry for years. Started off as acting and now has his own production company and is in charge of the film commission in Belize. Um, Nigel Miguel started off his acting career in colors, but he played for UCLA and was an All-American um, in the McDonald's basketball. Um, we're going to get to talk to him about how he transitioned from basketball to working in front of the camera to working behind the camera and working with stars like, Michael Jordan, LeBron James. And of course, he worked in Space Jam, which was huge too. My favorite was Heaven's a Playground. It was a small movie, wasn't huge, but the story was cool, had an awesome cast. But it's not waiting no longer. Let's get Nigel in the room and we get to talk to him about his career. How's it going,
Hey,
sir?
it's going well. Glad to be on the show, and thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, no, thank you, man. I have had an opportunity. Doors have opened up with Countdown where I get to interview comic book artists and writers that I love and in the career. My two loves have always been basketball and comics. And you know, growing up, I watched a lot of TV, a lot of movies, and Colors was huge for its time. I mean, that movie, Dennis Hopper putting that movie together and the time he put it together was such iconic because he brought light to what was going on in LA. And at that point, you were leaving, the NBA and going into, to movies. How was that going from being a basketball player and you decided, hey, I'm going to be a movie star. I'm going to try to go and get into movies now. When did that light switch?
Well, like you said, I had left playing. I had gotten injured. As a kid, obviously sports, basketball was very important to me, and um, my dream was to play in the NBA and have this long career and all that. But that wasn't in the cards. I was fortunate enough to get drafted and signed with the Nets, 1985, 86 season. I didn't make the team, but I was like the last player cut. So I went to the CBA,
Yeah.
stayed a year in the CBA, and got invited back to camp the next year, and actually had a really good shot at making the team. And then I got injured in a preseason game.
Dang.
Unfortunate, yes. Fortunately, um, I had 1 year guaranteed. I had a 2 year contract. One year was guaranteed, make good, guaranteed, and then the next year, um, uh, I had to be on the team. But because of the injury, I ended up getting paid for those. For they honored the contract. So I made a decision at that point to sort of give up my hoop dreams, as they say, and try to use my name to help parlay some other opportunities that were being offered to me, which one was uh, this movie industry. At that, the NBA was sort of exploding on the scenes, and Michael Jordan, Magic, Bird,
Yeah.
those are names that were becoming household names beyond your average basketball fan.
Yeah.
So entertainment, Madison Avenue, commercials, all that stuff was coming to play. And while at that point they weren't using real NBA players to do things, they were using people that looked like or used to play or whatever uh, most of the time. Now that's totally changed. You'll see an NBA player drop in as a guest star here, there,
Yeah.
all over the place. But this was the genesis of all of what you're seeing is going on now.
Yeah. That's true.
Um, so, like we spoke a little bit earlier, I said timing had a lot to do with my desires or my successes early on in the game. And uh, you mentioned colors. Dennis Hopper, huge basketball fan.
Yeah.
Huge basketball fan. Besides Colors, I had an opportunity to work with him on a Nike campaign.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, where I don't know, you might be too young, but he would sneak into the locker rooms of NFL, NBA teams, and try to find out, little secret things. And it was a great campaign because Dennis Hopper, while he was the director of Colors, I mean, he was an incredible character actor.
Oh, dude, he was great, man.
Yeah. So his personality and what Nike was doing then with their ad agency, Wyden and Kennedy, they created some great characters, some great campaigns, and he kind of slid in there. So I actually had a chance to work with him for a few years after Colors,
Oh, dude.
doing those commercials, and we laughed. We brought up a lot of old stories. The set of Colors was just an incredible experience for
Oh, man.
someone like me. That was my first movie,
Yeah, yeah.
and to be on set with Duvall and Sean Penn, with Maria Conchita Alonso. There were a lot of like great young actors
Yes.
that were just starting to blossom, that were a part of that movie. So as a first movie or as a first big job, that was an incredible experience, and I was extremely blessed for that opportunity. With that opportunity.
No, I mean, you're true. I mean, what you're saying is correct. I mean, Don Cheadle was part of that movie, and
Yep.
it took years before he even really shot off. I mean, the cast that was associated with it was huge. I mean, they were all up and comers, and
Yep.
and it was bringing light to what was going on in LA, what other people didn't see what was going on. I think this movie was ahead of its time.
Very
Um,
much.
yeah, and it was such a great movie that Hopper directed, and your character that you played that people didn't know was Snake Dance, and you were,
Yep.
part of the Cribs. I'm sorry,
No,
part of the Bloods,
yeah, part of the
part of the
blood.
Bloods, and one of the scenes that I was going to ask about was filming that funeral scene. Y'all were supposed to be like in that little church. How
Yep.
was it filming that scene? Because it's like you're standing in front of the casket, y'all go sit down, and then they do the drive-by scene. I mean, how did that day go when you filmed it? Was
Well,
it kind of crazy?
yeah, it was just because the church that we shot wasn't in quote unquote blood territory,
Oh,
and we
wow.
actually shot that on location in LA.
Oh,
And before I even get into that, there was a decision made because at first Colors was going to be in Chicago based off of Chicago gangs. Sean Penn was the one that kind of went to Dennis and told him, "Hey, man, let's make this thing about LA gangs," and he kind of gave him a little insight and broke down, and then that's when the
oh,
studio decided to, okay, that works even better.
oh,
So that
damn.
that that was that was a little bit of genius on Sean Penn's part to kind of move the script along and make it a little more authentic, and
Wow.
like you said, shed light on something that was happening in LA neighborhoods that you know people didn't really know about, and sharing that, it was entertaining as well as educational. But I think, like you said, that movie was way ahead of its time, and the cast, yeah, there were some great young actors, people that ended up being great actors. I mean, Damon Wayans
Yeah,
was
I was
uh,
gonna
was uh, that that I met so many people, man, from that movie that actually helped me um, through my years in the industry. That
wow.
like I said, it was amazing. But going back to that scene in particular, that was a small church, and they rigged it so that the gunshots and everything could. So while you actually saw the car drive-by shooting,
Yeah.
all the bullets and the explosives or whatever charges were set in the church. So we could only move in a certain spot. Like they would mark off the area that if you go outside these lines, you could potentially get hit or get hurt.
Oh,
So
dang.
maneuvering inside that church to get outside to see what was going on. It was a tight space, and a little bit of Hollywood magic behind the scenes, but um, like I said, it was an incredible experience.
Wow. I mean, it was awesome. And one thing about me, my name is Retro Ray. The reason why part of the team, I'm the old man in the team.
Okay.
And yeah, I love all kinds of movies and TV shows. And my thing is like one of the biggest movies that I mean, you were okay. The list of stuff that you've been in, I mean, I could go off of 21 Jump Street, uh, Hang with Mr. Cooper, I mean, the King, White Man Can't Jump. I mean, it can go on and on. But one of the movies that really hit home was growing up. Played basketball on the playground,
Okay.
and growing up on the south side of San Antonio was kind of what was going on, in Heaven's a Playground, where there was always, high school players that would come to the playground and that were good players, and they were always playing against the people who weren't up there. They didn't play high school ball, they just played playground ball. And this movie was so iconic for me because I saw it and I was like, man, it's so crazy that you have all these people who are in this movie. They're wanting to be a part of this one team that to wear this jersey,
Yeah.
and in hoping to get into the NBA, which is what was going on at the time. People were trying to find up and comers, in the playgrounds, and you know get them ready to hopefully get into the ABA or get into college and get out of the projects. And it was so cool because it kind of was like, hey, man, if that could happen there, maybe I could make it to the NBA. That never happened for me, but hey, it was
Well,
an awesome movie.
the thing is, and you had mentioned earlier some of the people I worked with. That movie was based off of a book written by Rick Tellinger, who is
Oh,
at the time was a big Sports Illustrated columnist, and
oh,
a summer. He spent the summer um, in New York on the playgrounds, and that's where, hence the name "Heaven Is a Playground" came from.
wow.
Now, when we shot it, we changed it from New York to Chicago because
Yeah.
originally this was supposed to be Michael Jordan's first movie.
What?
Yep, when we first started with the script, Jordan was attached to it. There's a director by the name of Randall Freed, who is a USC graduate. He actually wrote and directed the movie. USC
Wow.
graduate from film school that was sort of like, the hot guy coming out. And this was 19, when was this, man?
Yeah, I can look it up real quick. I got it
Early,
right here.
mid 80s. I would say mid 80s. No, I'm talking about when we first started. We actually shot it, um,
It was 91
when
when it came out.
yeah, 91, yeah. But we were working on Heaven is a Playground for about 4 years. And at the time,
Wow.
while MJ was a star, he hadn't won any championships yet. And so people were kind of like, yeah, it's a nice little movie. But who's this guy, Michael Jordan? Oh, he's just a basketball player. You know, he's not Magic, he's not Bird. So we had problems, honestly, we had problems raising money
Oh,
for that to get
wow.
that movie done. So, to make a long story short, we finally get the money funded, right? At
Yeah.
that point, Michael is too big for Heaven is a Playground. So,
No way.
yes, yes, yeah. So we go back and try to talk to him, and I've had a relationship with MJ since
Oh my
what
God.
1981. We actually roomed together in the McDonald All American game.
Are you
So
serious?
yep. So we've been chummy and friendly, and the producers of the movie kind of send me to talk to him because at that point David Falk, like he was attached to the movie for about 3 years, and we couldn't do anything. finally, when we get the money, and it wasn't a big budget. I think with him attached to it at that time was like a $3 million picture.
Oh, wow.
And he told me, he said, "Hey, Nige, I can't do it, man." And he broke down why, and I told him I got it. I said, but I had to try. People were coming at me, trying for me to leverage our relationship. And he says, "Yeah." He says, he says, "If I could, I would do it. I really would, but I can't. I have other things happening." Blah, blah. And I said, Understood, man. But I just have to be able to go back to them and let them know that I did try." So hence Bo Kimball
Yeah.
comes along, has that magical 1990 season. Well, Hank
Oh,
Gathers dies on the
I was gonna talk
court,
about that
but they
too.
still do that run. Yeah, and so we end up using Bo, and obviously the movie wasn't as big, but still, I love that movie. Like you said, for what it stands for, what it portrays. There were a lot of like interesting moments there. There were a lot of like it's heartfelt, man. It wasn't a big success, but I couldn't tell you how many people would stop me in the airports, or if I was traveling, going here or there, and they call me Case Man, or those type of things. I was actually doing a movie in South Africa a few years after that, and it was they had the video. Somebody came up to me on set,
Oh,
um, and then they showed me, heaven is a playground, it wasn't in English. I want to say Dutch, Afrikaans.
oh,
It was a white South African that showed it to me, and I was like, wow, okay. So um, this industry, man, has afforded me a lot of opportunity and just incredible experiences, and I'm truly grateful for the journey that I've had, and the journey that I am continuing on as well.
no, I mean, there's a scene in there when you're with, DB Sweeney, and you're telling him like, "Hey, man, he helped me, you know, get on the team, and I messed up because I started drinking."
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and dude, like, did where did you find that inspiration to do that? Because you could see the emotion in your face as you're telling DB this, and it's like you saying you can kind of see like, I messed up and I want to get back in the team, and it was so emotional. That one little scene was so emotional.
Well, I'll tell you this much: it's not that I'm a drinker or anything like that, but we've all made
Yeah.
mistakes, and um, that's something that I pulled upon. I looked at it as me talking to my
Oh,
father,
wow.
and that's where I drew on that from. Uh, just pouring my soul out as a younger man, or as a
Yeah.
kid, and just looking for another chance,
Wow.
just wanting to be, like I said, I don't want to be remembered as Casey the dumb guy,
Yeah.
you know um, and that second chances, you know um, I was very fortunate again. God has blessed me in being able to, if I make a mistake, being able to right that wrong.
Yeah. That's true.
And sometimes we're not always able to do that, and we have those regrets later on. But I my wife and I, she has a mentoring program down here in Belize with kids that kind of fall through the crack. Let's just
Oh,
say
okay, okay.
they're what she calls the forgotten
Yeah,
ones.
yeah.
And while I haven't taught them or showed them heaven is a playground, we do talk about things that I've done in what I call my former
Yeah.
life. And they see me as this old man that sort of walks around, and you know I, I pick up after them, or I do this, I do that, and they always say, "Hey, I heard you used to be this," or "Is that you?" I said, "Yeah," but I said, hey man, there's processes that you go through in life, and there's different stages of life, and whatever stage you're in at that point, you have to be the best that you can
Yeah,
be. So I tell them, I say, hey man, if you're going to pick up garbage, if you're going to clean up some, be that best garbage picker upper or the best cleanup man or whatever. Don't just save your best for the big things. Be your best at whatever you can do, because then you set a standard and it becomes second nature. It's not something extra that you have to gear up
yeah,
to. I'm going to be my best if like I said, if it's just picking up paper around the facility. So we talk to them, we teach them, and those are the things that, like, subconsciously I think about with that character Case Man, because that character was near and dear to
yeah,
me. And then, like I said, for a few years, man, that I was surprised at how many people actually saw that movie, because, like you said, it wasn't a big movie, but it did well, like on cable, and people renting it, and like now I see it on YouTube all the time. So yeah, and I people have sent me little stuff, like they always remember the Case Man.
yeah, dude. No, so I got to meet David Robinson when I was like 11 or 13, and at that time I had a brain tumor. So at that time I was healing, getting better. And when I got to meet David in the locker room, he was like, "Hey, man, I got to meet him." And I was like, "Yeah, I love basketball." And he's like, "What else do you love?" And I go, "I love comics." And he goes, "Always do what you love." And that kind of stayed with me for the longest time. Years later, I got to bring my two worlds together. I got help get Tim Duncan on the cover of the Punisher comic, and a San Antonio artist to draw it. And to me, that's something in my life I feel wouldn't have been there if David had said that
Yeah.
to me as a kid. And
Wow.
this movie which helped me, my love of basketball. Like at that time frame is when I was just like overcoming after the surgery and everything and getting better, and seeing basketball was like I loved it. I mean, I could go to the court, shoot around. It helped me get away from reality. It was, I don't know, it was like a mental thing to help.
Yeah.
And but then you just didn't do that. I mean, you did um Air Up There, Blue Chips at that time, of course, like you said, Shaq was coming out, and he had just came out,
Yeah.
and he was huge. But before we get into that, I'm going to show a clip, and this is an awesome clip, and I love it because even though we didn't get Michael Jordan in there, we got Hakeem Olajuwon, and you go up against Hakeem. So I'm going to play this, and I'm going to ask how it went. Okay.
Can't guard me, huh? You Case Man, fool. Oh yeah, I play this game for bread and meat. If I don't win, I don't eat. So I got to dunk it in your eye, boy. Uh-oh.
How was it filming or setting up that scene to film? Like, you can go up against Hakeem. I mean, that was an awesome
Oh
part,
man.
man.
Well, knowing Akeem, I knew him prior to that,
Wow.
because it's I mean, we were in college around the same
Yeah.
time. And he actually took a trip to UCLA prior to committing to Houston.
What?
He came out to um, the U.S. Obviously. He went to Houston first and all that, but he took a trip out to L.A. And
No way.
yeah, it's going to, full circle, and then meeting him on the set was kind of surreal. Just because it clicked with him too. And then after Heaven is a Playground, we worked on a couple other commercials during the '96 Olympic. I think it was when he was on the Dream Team.
Wow.
Um, and we did some stuff for Visa and It's either Visa or Mastercard, but all Olympic sponsors.
Wow.
The director of that campaign was a guy by the name of Joe Pitka, who directed Space Jam and just numerous Michael Jordan spots or sports spots, let's just say. Um, but shooting that with Akeem, again, the director kind of gave me free range to kind of like put it together, and those guys, you know, kind of trusted what we were going to do. But Akeem is an awesome
Yeah.
dude, uh, and that scene there was somewhat funny and playful, but again, there was a proving point to that, or a teaching point, I should say, to that as well, of being prepared to take your opportunity,
Yeah.
and even if you fail, you took your
Yeah.
shot, you know, and you referenced basketball was sort of like your safe place after your surgery, something that traumatic for not just a an adult, but for a kid, I'm sure that was like, man, I'm trying to place myself in that situation. I know even as an older person, now you get sick, how traumatic that could be. But as a kid, I couldn't imagine how devastating that was. But um, having basketball, like you said, having something to go to sort of take you away from the realities of having a brain tumor, man.
Yeah.
That it is an impactful, like just living through that and then actually coming out on the other side being a survivor. I'm sure that those stories that you share with people, because that's scary,
No,
man.
I know it
You
is.
know, yeah,
The doctor told my mom that there was a possibility after the surgery that, my memory wouldn't be like normal. I would forget either short term or long term stuff. So when I came out, I was remembering stuff. And it's weird because I actually remember a lot more than I can remember crazy like stuff from the past more than normal. But that was one of the things they told my parents. And so being able to come out of it, it was a rough time going through it, but at the same time, later on,
right.
now where I'm at currently, I work in the medical field. I fix medical equipment. I still love my comics. I read comics. So I feel grateful for where I'm at currently. And now with the opportunity of the platform I have now, getting to interview people, getting to hear their stories, um, like your story, it's like, yeah, this may have had occurred in your life, but don't give up. Do something else. Yeah,
Never,
and that's what you
never.
did,
Yes,
and that's what I want people to see, because like even some of the comic artists, they tried getting into art school, but they couldn't get in because they weren't good enough. But that didn't stop them, and they're working with Marvel currently. So that's what I want here.
that that's one of the things. I'm sorry, not to cut you off, but that's one of the things that I truly preach and want everybody. And it doesn't really have anything to do with your age, because as long as you have breath,
Yes.
as long as you have life, you can achieve.
Yeah.
And it's important, especially like the young kids and stuff, that they know that every day is an opportunity to achieve your
Yeah.
goal.
Exactly.
Maybe it's a small goal. If you stack small goals together, you'll get a big goal.
Yeah.
But every day, I mean, something as simple. My my parents used to tell me, my dad especially, why do I make why do I make you make your bed up in the morning? Because that's one accomplishment that you have.
Yeah.
And when he was telling me that, I didn't understand it. I just thought, But as I got older, started to like, I would need stuff to say that I could build upon. And that's a simple one to do that you can accomplish every day. And once you start to accomplish things, there's a domino effect. There's a or snowball effect, that
Yeah.
positive brings in more positive, and you roll. And after a while, you'll look back and you'll say, wow, these little steps have gotten me here. And once you have that formula, then you
Yeah.
can build upon it.
Yeah.
Something as simple as that, man. But it's important.
Yeah. No, it is true. And that's the thing, like, when you worked on it, and then also too is building relationships with people. Like you said, you built relationships with, people that you've worked with in the past, and they helped you get to where you got to too
Oh
as
yeah.
well. And it's always that relationship building, I feel, that is important. And um like you said, again, you worked with Jordan, he was now, I have to ask, was did everybody know he was supposed to be tied to this movie at first, or was that never known at this point?
At that point, I don't think people knew because it was such a devastating. Well, okay, I'll tell you this. At the point, because stuff is coming back to me. At that time, when it was going to be a $3 million project, it was based on him being attached to it.
Oh,
When we did that with Bo, when
yeah.
Bo and everybody else got attached to it, I think the budget went down to like 2 million or
Oh,
something like that
wow.
because he was still going to get a significant amount based off of what the budget was.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Wow.
So when Bo and like you said, Akeem was a part of it. All those guys have the same agent.
Oh, wow.
Leonard Armato was Akeem's agent. Leonard Armato was Bo Kimball's agent. So that's how all that came together.
Oh, wow.
You know, so that's how all that came together. Um, us having Michael associated with it, it would have been obviously a much bigger picture even at that time. But then I'm sure we would have had more people from David Falk's agency associated with the project. Because if you look, Kendall Gill was also in that movie.
Yeah.
Chicago kid. He was just going into the league. He wasn't an NBA player yet. He
Yeah.
had just finished his. He had just finished his. I think he came out a year early. I'm not sure, but
I can't remember it. Yeah.
yeah, but he had declared he had been drafted, so he was a part of it. But Bo was the draw. Bo Kimball was the draw.
No, I mean, that was
At
even
that
even
time.
that Hank Gather's story. That's, if you don't, people don't know who Gather's story. I mean, that guy and Bull were huge friends together, and basically the story of him, dying on the court, doing what he loved, you know, even knowing that, you know, his health, like he didn't want to give up basketball
He
because
didn't
he
want to
loved
give
it
up
so
back
much.
his medication. His medication made him less of a player,
Yeah,
and then he stopped taking it so that he could play.
yeah.
And I don't know if that was another movie I was attached to, the Hank Gather story,
Oh, dude, that one, so
and
emotional, man.
and I didn't. It's weird, man, because I was actually supposed to play Hank Gathers in that movie, and
Oh,
they
wow.
gave it to an actor by the name of Victor Love, who was in Heaven Is a Playground.
Yeah,
And while Victor was a much more accomplished actor than I was, I just felt that from a basketball standpoint, I would have enhanced it. And, but hey, uh, Victor did a great job. And like that was another story that was near to my heart, because I knew Hank. There was a player that I helped recruit to UCLA, Pooh Richardson,
oh,
and Pooh, Hank, and Bo all came out of high school the same year. So I got to meet Hank and
wow.
through Pooh. Um,
That's so
so,
crazy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was yeah, man. 1989 is when Hank went down. Well, the 89-90 season
Yeah,
is when he went down, and that man, uh, that was crazy.
yeah. If you didn't watch it, guys, if you haven't watched that movie, you got to watch it. It's so emotional. It hits you at the very end. Um, it's just such a great and movie on his life. Um, but I mean,
Hank was another like amazing cat too, man. Just like
gone
some of
too
these
soon.
dudes, yeah, so true. Gone too soon, but they a lot of these dudes have these bigger than life personalities that you kind of feel blessed when you're in the room with them or associated with them. And I'm sure, like I listened to his teammates talk from that year at that they spent at Loyola Marymount, because the interesting thing, when they first came, when they first graduated from high school, they went to USC. Then
Wow.
they had a coaching change, or they weren't seeing eye to eye with the coach or whatever, and Hank and Bo left to go to Loyola Marymount.
Wow.
So they, you know, like I said, like you said, gone too soon. It,
Yeah. But I mean, you got to work with people like Bo, and then later on, you and Michael get together again. And how? So, what did you do on Space Jam? What did you actually
I did
contribute?
a couple things. Like the director of Space Jam was a guy by the name of Joe Pitka. Joe Pitka directed the genesis, what actually started the theme, the concept of the Space Jam movie, were these commercials, that these Super Bowl commercials.
Okay, okay.
And I had been MJ's body double for a
No
long
way.
time. Yeah.
For
And
real?
yeah, and Nike and Whiten and Kennedy would hire me, because at that time most of the guys that were the face of the NBA were all guys either that I played on the McDonald's All American team with, or they were AAU. We came up, we were in college, in high school at the same time, the class of '81 from high school. And so the big Nike guys at that time, MJ, of course, Charles Barkley, and who else was there? There was someone else in that era. But MJ and Barkley were sort of like the top
Yeah.
guys, let's just say. Those are people that I had relationships with, you know, from high school, long before they became big household
Yeah.
names. All right. So Nike and the ad agency, like I said, Whiten and Kennedy, would hire me. The agents of these guys would kind of, they had a certain comfort level when I was on
Oh
the
wow.
set. Because most of these guys, like, I'll give you a quick scenario, like with commercials, you don't have the star of the commercials for the whole commercials. Like in the case of MJ, you'll get 4 to 6 hours a day with him if it's more than one day. So a lot of the setups and getting everything ready, I had
Oh
to do,
wow.
so we could maximize his time. Like when he would come on the scene, they say, okay, just watch what Nigel did. Or I would go into his trailer and we talk 10, 15 minutes before, go over everything. So then when he'd come out, his time was used most effectively,
Wow.
you know. And those, I mean, which was great for me because it kind of made sure that I would always be a part, I would always have a job. And then a few years into what we were doing, Nike hires this guy by the name of Peter Friedman. And Peter Friedman actually opened up a whole different area of the production. Like he would make sure that I was in pre-pro
Oh.
meetings, which I had never been before. And he would tell them that, yeah, Nigel has to be there because he's the one that's giving the information to Michael or to whomever and all that. So it made it more pay for me. It made me become more of an important part of the process. And then it allowed me to see these things. Because, I mean, earlier you talked about, well, how did you go about getting your own production company? Why did you do that? it was because of that's what happened. I just saw this. Well, this is the next
Wow.
step. This is how I can give opportunity to folks because, like you said, no one does it
Yeah.
on their own. No one does it on their own, and I can't always help the people that help me. But what they told me is that you do the same that I did for you for
Yeah.
someone else. And that's something that I've lived by. It's actually made me want to do more behind the scenes stuff. That's why I kind of stepped away from acting because I felt that I was able to help more and to be more of a important piece to the puzzle because I knew what it was like when you finally get a
Yeah.
job, man, you know, and you get that paycheck and all that. It brings joy to me seeing that happen to other folks that I can
Yeah.
help make that be a part of their
That's
routine.
awesome.
In the case of Belize, it's not like we have a huge film industry down here. Like every project that comes in that I'm able to bring in to produce or be associated with, I see the joy of a young kid or a young adult actually one realizing their dream, but two when they actually get a paycheck and it's like, wow, I am an actor or
Yeah.
I am a grip, I am you know uh, a PA production assistant. It's a good feeling, and I'm building an industry. I'm being a part of something. It's not always easy,
Yeah. No, it's
but
not. It never is.
but it's rewarding. Let's just
Yeah.
say, and it's not always financial rewards, but there's a thing that comes about when you're a pioneer. And I tell people all the time when it gets tough on the set or something, I say, hey man, we're making history, and that making history isn't pretty.
No, it's true. I mean,
Yeah.
like you said, every little thing that you've done has led to other opportunities. I mean, Space Jam, and of course, I'm gonna put the photo up of you and Michael. You know,
Oh yeah,
dude,
yeah. That's that's my guy, man. He
dude, that's
just my
so awesome.
association with him has allowed me to do so many other things. I mean,
Wow,
I've 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 traveled the world because of him. You
wow.
know, I've been associated like in projects. I tell you, there was a commercial that we did for a campaign called CEO Jordan,
Uh huh.
where he's obviously Michael, the basketball player, but then he's also the CEO of Brand Jordan. And Nike did a commercial, uh, a campaign with that. Um, this was the second. I think this was they had already won three, so this was the second three-peat time, that
Wow.
96, 97, 90, 98 team. So I'm in Chicago and for a week for this commercial. And you actually see Michael Jordan is a powerful cat. But when you actually see it in work, the process, the mercantile system, which is their stock exchange, for the city of Chicago, we shot in that building that doubled as his office, right?
Oh wow.
So we would have to get there before it would open to have access to everything. And then when it actually opened, they still set aside a little portion of the building for us to do the commercial.
Oh wow.
So the first day, I didn't know what to expect. We go there, and obviously the buzz is it's in Chicago, so it's nothing bigger than MJ in Chicago at that time. And the buzz starts to happen. Michael Jordan, blah blah, this and that. And there's a part of the commercial where he opens the door, goes outside to this stairway, and starts to go up the stairway. Now he never really did it. The in the commercial, the stairway running is me. and
Oh, dang.
I have a ticker tape that I'm taking up to. But when he opens the door, obviously it's him. When he sits down at his desk, when he gets from running upstairs, and he has the tape that he's reading, is him. But all the stuff in between, that's me. So
Oh, wow.
there's a barricade set off around the that part of the building. Fans are starting to gather there. And by the time we actually do it, the first couple of times, it's me opening the door, running up, couple hundred, 400. There's about 1,000 people there watching. When he finally gets there to do it, like it's bedlam on the other side of the barricade, right? It's crazy. So the people from Nike are like, "Hey, open the door and stick your head out. They'll think it's MJ." And you hear the roar, man. This dude, like what he meant, obviously to the NBA, but the city of Chicago and that love affair that they had with him and all that, it was amazing to see and be a part of. Just, just overwhelming. That's like the cachet. And I tell people all the time that like the biggest compliment I could give Michael, um, from my experience with him, was he was the most consistent person that I knew that really didn't have to be consistent. Because when you're the it man and all that shit, if you want to have a bad day, you can have a bad day. And then you can you don't have to be, because people are there to support your every whim.
Yeah.
But man, like he like I said, he told me one time, he said, "Look, man, I'm never gonna ask you to do something that I wouldn't do for myself or do for you." I said, "Dude, as long as that's the case," I said, "you could ask me to do anything then."
Yeah,
Yeah,
here's
yeah,
another
that's
photo.
yeah, that's actually on the set of Space Jam. Um, the guy sitting down is Nate Bellamy, who was also a coordinator on the movie. You were asking
Wow.
me what I did in Space Jam, and we kind of got sidetracked. But
Yeah.
we
It's all
we we
good, man.
did
It's all good.
okay. We did. I was a Monstar, so when he was acting, I was one of the guys in the green suits that they actually back then they would. You'd have animators that would do everything after. The industry has changed so much in the past 30 years, but this this movie, how we shot Space Jam, like it took months in post production to do. Months. Like I mean
Dang.
six to 9 months. Now the with new computers and new technology and all that, it's a much shorter process.
Wow.
But we would act in we would do it in front of a green screen, so we would dress up in these costumes, and MJ would act against us, and then the animators would paint in the action afterwards. So I played, depending on whatever scene it was, every Monstar that was there from the physical standpoint,
Dude, no
you know
way.
yeah. And then I also uh I did the casting for like all the players, the NBA players. We did the deals for them,
Oh, wow.
that came in. Other than like, the 5-star Larry Johnson, Charles,
Yeah.
Muggsy, those guys were on totally different deal memos. But like the day players, the other NBA, I would say nondescript players, we put those together. We reached out, and so
Wow.
I got a huge education there. A guy by the name of Gordon Webb, who was the UPM on that movie,
Uh-huh.
because of the relationship that I had with MJ. He opened up the books and taught me so much. At the
Wow.
time, Daly was the head of the studio, um, because MJ. I went to the first meeting on set with Michael.
Wow.
I kind of became their go between. They would ask me, you know. So I wish I could have closed more deals at that point, but with I actually had for about 3 to 6 months. I had top access to the head of Warner Brothers because of MJ.
Dude.
Yeah, the people that came by to visit that set were the who's of Hollywood. The weight equipment that they had at the Jordan Dome
Yeah.
after the movie was done, Clint Eastwood bought that the weights. He used that for when he was on location and stuff like that. Let me see some of the people uh, that actually stuck their head in on set at some point. The current president, Trump. He wasn't President Trump then, but the current president, he stuck his head in. Um, who else? Queen Latifah, LL Cool J. Well, LL did a song, but anybody that was on the soundtrack, all those guys came through. Um,
So I have
and
to
I'm
ask a
drawing a
question.
blank now, but I'm sorry.
So I have to ask a question. So
Uh,
I heard he would have pickup games as well during in between. Is that true?
yeah, after he finished filming, that was a part of his contract. He'd do his weights in the afternoon at lunchtime. So he would eat and then he'd go do a workout. Then after filming, um, which usually would end like around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, he would go play ball for 2, 3 hours, pick up.
So did
Yep.
you play in any of those pickup games?
Before, well, I played, but I was more in charge of setting it up. But
Oh, okay, okay.
I don't know if you remember then when Space Jam first was shot, there was a lockout. There was a strike.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember
So
that.
at that point, NBA players weren't allowed to come together and work out. So in the beginning, it was only the UCLA team because at that time UCLA had won the championship,
Yeah.
1995. So those players would come to the Jordan Dome and other college players. He would need extras people to play then, so I would play. After the lockout got worked out, that's when the NBA players came.
Wow.
And at that point, I think I got in a couple games, but no, that was more of no, we're working on our craft. It's real players at that time. So I was more
Dude.
setting it up and everything. But yeah, that was anybody like you had your regulars who were based out of LA that were there, but like Grant Hill popped in a couple of times. Rodman came in.
Oh,
No one
wow.
knew. No one knew at the time, but he came in to play and to kind of sit down because they were going to do the deal. You know.
Oh, oh.
So I will tell you something. I was actually a part. I got to sit in on that deal.
No
Um,
way.
yeah, the day that he came, the first day that he came was specifically because there was a deal being cooked up and he needed to sit down with Michael and all that. So he came, he played, and later on that night, um, Michael at that time was staying in the Beverly Hills Hotel. And for whatever reason, they got us all rooms. So I went back to the hotel. And mind you, I was living in LA. But because I was a part of the group, they actually had a room there for me.
Wow.
So we went back to the hotel, and I remember in the bungalows, um, sitting in there with David Falk, Dennis Rodman, MJ, the guy that you saw in that photo, Nate Bellamy was there as well, and I'm trying to remember who else. There was one other person in there, and they talked about Dennis and Michael, the back and forth. And I remember Michael was at the end of the meeting, Michael was like, I'm cool. He said, nah, I just gotta get Scotty to be on board because there was some tension from the Detroit bad boy days and how they were like they used to rough Scotty up as well,
Yeah.
and that needed to be worked out, but it was. I can say that I saw that deal come about with my own eyes.
Well,
Yep.
and the funny thing is that deal was the trade between the Spurs and Chicago.
Right, right. Yep, yep.
That is
Will
freaking
Purdue.
nuts.
Well, yeah, yeah. Yes, I was there. I saw that happen
Oh
firsthand.
my god.
100%. hundred
Dude,
percent.
that's so awesome.
Yep. Yep. It's the Beverly Hills Hotel. This off of Sunset. I don't know. There's one off of Wilshire, but this was sort of like Hollywood hangout, old school Hollywood stuff. And
Wow,
that was
dude.
the other thing, man. Hollywood royalty sort of embraced MJ when he was there for those
Yeah.
months of filming that summer. Um, I'm trying to remember some of the other names that people that would just drop by the set and come in just to say hello. Or another interesting thing, I would read. MJ would let me read some of his fan mail, some of his letters and stuff while they
Oh
were shooting.
wow.
And Angela Lansbury, I don't know if you remember that name, a show
Yeah,
called
that's like
Murder She
huge.
Wrote.
Yeah, yeah,
Murder
yeah.
She Wrote. I'm sitting in his trailer and he's showing me this. Well, I'm sitting in his trailer and I see this thing and I'm like, I said, that is that Angela Lansbury? Angela? He says, yeah. I said, Murder She Wrote. I'm like, oh man. And he's like, so he shows it to me to look. And she wrote him the sweetest letter
Wow.
saying how much of a fan she is and welcome to Hollywood and all this kind of stuff. That's when I started to really understand the reach and how big this cat's influence was, you know?
Dude.
And but that to me was impressive. That was bigger. I remember being at it was either the second when they beat Utah. It was the
Oh yeah,
first
yeah,
one
yeah.
because it was the first time that they beat Utah, championship 5. I was in the locker room
No
with him
way.
when President um, Clinton called to speak to Scotty because he's an Arkansas kid and all that. But when Scotty came over to bring the phone to MJ locker,
Dude.
and they talked, and I was there hearing President Clinton give them the little congratulations shout out.
Wow, that's so
Yeah,
freaking awesome.
yeah.
Okay, so Space Jam. Okay, that's not even the only thing you've worked on. You worked on Blue Chips. You got to work with Shaq, Penny Hardaway, Nick Nolte. I mean, how was it working on that one?
That was an incredible experience because the actual writer of Blue Chips was Ron Shelton, who was the writer director for White Man Can't Jump. So that's how I got to be a part of that in the beginning or whatever. But Ron had actually wanted to direct that movie as well. But William Friedkin saw the script on his wife's desk, who at the time, Sherry Lansing, was the head of Paramount. And he's like, I want to direct that. So to get
Wow.
the movie made, Ron had to step aside as the director and only be the writer. Now, I knew of William Friedkin at that time, but from all the different genres that he was a part of. But having William Friedkin on that set, it took a whole different level of access. It took me to a whole different level of access because you're with William Friedkin.
Yeah.
This is a big Shaq movie. His wife Sherry Lansing is the head of the studios. You don't think this guy's gonna get whatever he wants?
It was an
So
awesome
there it
movie,
is.
bro.
Oh man, and I'm just saying the access and just being a part of it, and then being a part of the whole Shaq Diesel ecosystem.
Yeah.
Shaq came on the scene totally different than all of those other guys. like MJ, Charles, all of those guys had to build up to it. But
Yeah.
because of what those guys did, Shaq kind of rode their coattails, and Shaq wanted it. Shaq was a product of his environment, seeing all this stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
guys
true.
like MJ and Barkley, they kind of, how can I put it? They were the pioneers somewhat of what was
No,
going
yeah.
on. These dudes, Shaq, Penny, they reaped the benefits of that. You
Yeah.
know,
That's true.
but yeah, that we shot that in L.A. obviously on the studio. We went back to Indiana to shoot. We went to New Orleans, Louisiana to shoot. Um, that was a big budget film, you know,
Oh yeah. I mean, it
with
was a
all the
crazy.
trimmings, big budget studio films with all the trimmings.
Dude, that's so freaking awesome, man. And then not only that, okay, I'm gonna put this one up. You also got it played.
Oh, LeBron, the LeBrons, yeah.
Yes. How did
Yeah.
that go? How did that come about?
Well, the guy that created that campaign was a guy by the name of Jimmy Smith,
Okay, okay.
who, I mean, if you Google Jimmy Smith, just check him out. Jimmy Smith, I tell you, the Gatorade, Nike, Apple. This from an ad agency standpoint or a creative campaign standpoint,
Yeah.
this dude is like the holy grail of those type of campaigns. You would be like, if we did a top 100 of the commercials that this guy did, you would be, oh, I remember that. I knew, those are sort of like you your life put aside besides the commercials that they did. So many of those commercials were probably played a significant role in that time of your life, stuff that you were going through. You could remember, but
Wow.
I the agent at the time for LeBron, um, I knew them, the Goodwin brothers, but they had, and from Gary Payton, Jason Kidd, just uh, like all stars from back in the day, and I had worked with them over the years. So when LeBron came on the scene, they actually made sure that I was a part of his early maturation, I guess, or maturity as he went through the industry. Um,
Wow.
18-year-old kid, um, when he first came on, and he took a liking to me. So after that, I was sort of just a part of whatever happened with LeBron within the Nike world. And
Dang,
then when this
man.
opportunity came for somebody to be, he played four characters in this. So when he wasn't playing wise LeBron, that was me, you know, uh, which was it was amazing. And then you actually saw that this kid, he got it. He wanted to do this.
Yeah.
So that's where, like, he was a product of his environment, seeing what MJ went through, Barkley, Shaq and all those guys. This He was the next thing. Again, we go back to timing. So while in some cases MJ had to be convinced to do certain things,
Yeah.
LeBron was like, "No, I got it, man. I want to do that." So um, it was the director was a guy by the name of Stacy Walls. Stacy has gone on to do, not that this wasn't a great thing, but just so many bigger things. But this was a jump off for him as well. Um, he actually, I don't know if you knew that they had a cartoon series
Yeah.
uh, based off it. It didn't run long, but uh, the LeBrons was something. I didn't get a chance to be a part of the cartoon series, which I man I really tried to get on board, but it just didn't happen for for whatever reason. It just didn't happen. But that campaign ran for about 3 years, and very
Yeah.
successful. And
Yeah.
wise LeBron, you had the kid LeBron, you had cool LeBron, and then actually you actually had LeBron. So and he did an excellent job of acting. I have some very cool behind the scenes stuff. That we did. LeBron was an interesting um, person, even at that young age, because what was thrust upon him,
Yeah.
and how he handled it really was amazing, man. You
Yeah. And
know,
I mean, and then not only that, like you said, you not able to, you got injured. I mean, you got to work still alongside Jordan, you know,
yeah,
LeBron, Shaq, Penny. I mean, that's huge. I mean, you still got to be a part of and be
yeah,
with iconic legends. I
yep,
mean, and
yep.
then one of the legends I want to ask, I got to ask, because this guy is huge. How was it?
Yes.
How was it meeting him? I mean, because he's such an iconic person. How was it meeting him?
Well, in my household, like I said, we come from humble beginnings, and I could always remember even before I knew about basketball, because I was born in Belize and then migrated to the U.S. But my father went to UCLA on a scholarship, engineering scholarship, right?
Yeah.
So even before I knew what basketball was, I knew who John Wooden was, because when he came back from he and my mom went to the U.S. so he could go to school.
Okay.
When he came back, I didn't leave Belize until I was 6,
Oh wow.
but I would hear about this coach. Didn't know he was a coach, but just knew the name. I was a kid. I really wasn't, but I remember John Wooden. It wasn't until we moved. We went to New York first, and then we settled in L.A. And my father would take me up to UCLA as a kid. That was a field trip for me. I didn't know why, but we'd walk around, and he'd show me the. Well, I went to this. This was where I went to school. This was the my classrooms. He showed me these bunch hall, these different buildings, and all that. I didn't know he was feeding me. He was nurturing me to one day go there. So I knew who John Wooden was before I knew what John Wooden did. As I got
Wow.
older and starting to watch basketball and understand it, so John Wooden was iconic within my household even before we knew.
Dude.
Actually, I go to a camp, the John Wooden camp, and at that time it wasn't at UCLA, it was at Pepperdine. I got to meet him then. I told him I wanted to come to UCLA. This was in the 70s. Wanted to come to UCLA. By the time I get there, obviously he's no longer the coach, but I meet him again at the McDonald's All American game where we take the photo. I bring that up to him. That was the first McDonald's game. At that point, I hadn't committed to UCLA yet. I didn't commit. I was like one of the last commitments uh, to sign. During the second, the East, we took that picture during the Capital Classic, I think, game. During the East-West game, which happened to be take place on my birthday, that same week of my birthday in April. I sit down with Coach Wooden then. So that picture, while yes, it's a big picture just because of it's your McDonald's game and all the McDonald players get a chance to take a picture with Coach Wooden. That picture is even so much more significant because he sits down with me to talk about things. He
Man.
knows it's my birthday. Just all kind of so the behind the scenes of that photo, it's so significant in my life and just what took. I um that week of all the festivities leading up to the game, they have a birthday party for me at the McDonald games. So it's just all kind of like special things that happen then, man. That as I've gotten older, I look back and there are special moments. There are aha moments that um, like you said, as you get older, you kind of appreciate those things more. And then
Yeah.
from there, they from the McDonald games, they chose uh, a few players to go play in the Albert Schweitzer games, and I got selected to go over to represent the Junior Olympics in Mannheim, Germany. And that's a tournament that happens every 2 years. So people that went there before me were Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson played in the Albert Schweitzer game. Um, Albert King, I think, played. There were some significant names that went on to compete in that thing. So that whole scenario that photo came from. There's so much backstory on that man that you know it brings a warm spot back to me that you showed that, and then I can go back and
Oh man, lost signal. Hopefully we can get him back. Um, but yes, this interview is awesome. Um, we hadn't even got into his film, um, going back to Belize and actually, making, being part of the film commission in Belize. Um, so hopefully we can get him back in and get talk about that. Uh, but this is also it's been an awesome interview so far.
yeah, that photo with Coach Wooden, you bringing it up, it took me back on, touch some emotional stuff. Let's just say that again, Coach Wooden was an iconic figure, but
Yeah.
for so much more than just like basketball, um, maybe to the world, but to those of us that got a chance to meet, know him, and interact, he was a special person beyond those 10 championships that they won. You know,
Wow.
it was really um, like when I was at UCLA, he would come around every now and then, just because he didn't want to overshadow the current coach and allow them to be who they needed to be to get the job done. But my last year there, Coach Hazard wanted Coach Wooden around as much as possible because Coach Hazard won the first championship that Coach Wooden won in '64. Okay. My last year at UCLA, we won the NIT
Yeah.
uh, championship, which we beat University of Indiana, Bobby Knight, for the championship.
Yeah.
Coach Wooden is an Indiana native. Now he went to Purdue, not IU, but just the connection. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There, and so it was.
That crazy.
It, yeah, things just don't happen. Is what basically what I'm trying to say. There are always a reason why and a connection why.
No, it's true. We're so busy caught up in our daily lives that we don't see the little things until later and realize, man, you know what? If this hadn't happened in my life at this point in my life, I probably wouldn't have either did what I did here or had reached this point to accomplish that. Um, Perfect example, the whole David Robinson and Spurs thing.
Right.
If I had never met David then and him telling me just do what you love, who would have known what I would have done? You know what I mean? There's no telling. And and I feel for basketball players and sports people, when they do things like that for kids, it means a lot to a kid at that point in their
Oh
life,
yeah,
and it
oh
can
yeah.
affect them so huge, you know?
I was just gonna say David Robinson is an amazing person, and I'm sure you feel that way too. But he is. I've listened to him speak. I've been in his company a few times.
Wow.
Um, like I said, I've done. He was a big Nike guy as well, so I
Yeah.
got a chance to work with him
Oh,
uh,
nice.
in Nike. Just his mindset and obviously he's influenced through the Naval Academy and stuff like that. But he's just his, his story, his arc, because like when he went to the Naval Academy, at first he was like 6'1" or something, and then he has this huge growth spurt. So
Yeah.
it's incredible. Like his story,
Yeah.
and just what he stands for. He's a pretty stand up dude. And
Yeah, I mean, and
sometimes that's not always the case. I've heard people say, "Man, I want to meet him," wa- that's an idol of mine. And then when they meet him, they get disappointed. Some folks like, "Man, that's better if I wouldn't met him because then I would have had this version of this person." So,
yeah, it's
but
true.
yeah,
And like you're talking about your coach, and that was the thing that I feel like Popovich, has impacted in San Antonio was he doesn't just consider these players players. He
right,
cares about them, and he, wants to know about their family. He wants, part that
right.
we don't see, in the NBA. And that I feel as a coach, that makes a big difference when you can see that care the coach cares about you. You're not just
Oh
a
yeah,
player you're not just a player to him. You are actually a person, and he cares about your well-being. That's awesome.
I would tell you that was the biggest. And like I said, I never had a chance to build a relationship with the coaching staff at the Nets, but when I got injured, I realized how much of a business it truly was because I got hurt on the road in Hershey,
Oh,
Pennsylvania, and we actually took a bus from Jersey to Hershey for that preseason game, and I came back. They they dropped me off at the emergency, and I spent the night in the hospital. Um, well, I wouldn't say spend the night, but I was there overnight. Um, and it it was a cold feeling.
wow.
You know,
Yeah,
I
I know
was
what you're talking
there
about.
in the emergency room by myself well, the trainer was there too. I take that back, but you know that
You're
guy was there more because of my relationship with him, not so much a player um, trainer relationship.
Yeah,
He,
yeah,
he he he
exactly.
he was like out of the training staff. He was like the newest guy, so he ain't really had no stripes. But I was cool with him just because you know
Yeah.
that guy's close to my age as well. You know what I mean? So and then just like I remember Bob McKinnon, who was the GM, trying to get me to sign all these papers,
Oh, wow.
and me not knowing what to do. But when I got injured, the player rep at the time was a guy by the name of Buck Williams. He was the team's player rep. And I remember getting hurt. He just told me, he said, don't sign anything.
Wow.
He said they're going to come in and try to, he said, but just wait, let your agent look at it. They're going to tell you that they're asking you to do this or wanting you to do this because to take care of you. And that scenario played out exactly like how he said. And I was like, well, and because Bob McKinnon got a little upset because I didn't want to sign anything at that time. He said, this is for your benefit. And I told him, I said, well, if it's for my benefit, it'll still be there a day or two from now when my agent can look at it. I mean, I was in somewhat shock, not so much from what he did, but just dealing with the injury. I didn't know what,
Yeah.
my mind was all over the place, man. So, um, but I'm glad I did. It worked out, but Buck, thank him for that. But I remember that like it just happened yesterday. He told me, he said, "Hey man, don't sign anything. They can't force you to." He says, "I'm just letting you know how this works as the player rep and all that." And so I was like, "Thank you." I'm
Wow.
a newbie, rookie. I don't know. You know,
Yeah, I mean, you don't. I mean, you're learning as you're going, and
yeah,
just like the same thing. And it helped you, and when you transitioned into it, the acting and into the producing, like you mentioned, if it wasn't for that person who helped you sit into the meetings with, Michael Jordan and everything, I like you said, you wouldn't
yeah.
have your production company now, and then also be in Belize with the film industry.
I try as a producer, and I'm actually we just did when we not just did, but last December we shot a film down here, a horror film that
Oh
I'm
wow.
trying to complete so we can actually get in the market. But there's some issues behind it, and again, producer, actor. Sometimes you're at odds, but because I am that person that went from one side to the next, I am considerate of all of those things that actors or that crew or that vendors go through. So even though it might not be as smooth a process, I tell folks, one, I'm going to be fair. Two, just bear with me as we go through this process, but we will be fair. I'm not going to take advantage of you, just like I don't want you to take advantage of me. And so we're dealing. I'm dealing with this project right now, man. It's stressful at times. Let's just say, because independent filmmaking, you're usually under budgeted for what the task that you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So you you have $100, you actually need $500, but you got to make it work somehow.
Yeah.
So I am hopeful that I will get out of that process within the next 30 days,
Wow.
as we're in the middle of a raise um, for some things, and I'm paying vendors off that should have been paid a few months ago.
Oh wow.
So I'm balancing that, trying to keep my editor happy. Just it's a whole, and that's why, honestly, when you had wanted us for us to do this earlier, I was
Yeah.
saying that it's a bad. I was going through all that, but I I I, I got a little breathing room. Um, One of my investors actually came through, so we're actually able to do some things. So I'm hopeful that this week I will have paid everybody off. But those are the things that my experiences from sports, not always being the top dog at one time to being just a person that's on the team, but still wanting and needing certain things answered, responsibilities, all of those things. I get it, because I've been everyone at one point in my career through sports, you know?
Yeah. And that
So
helps you. It helps you along the way, and it helps you.
immensely,
Yeah.
immensely, immensely. Because I have compassion for that person that, like, is a low man on the totem pole, but they still need questions answered. They still need to be a part of what's going on, you know? And
Yeah.
that's important to me, because I tell people all the time, you're only as good or as strong as your weakest link. You
Yeah.
know, you have to make that person feel engaged and let them know that that they are part of this and just as important in their own way to the success of this project, this film, this TV show, this commercial, whatever the production is. You know, it
No, it's
is.
true. It's true, big time. I mean, and getting back to your working in industry, horror films are huge right now. So, we're at a time in the film industry where horror is slowly starting to pick up, where back the way it was in the 80s, where everybody's looking for the
Yeah.
next horror film.
Yeah. Well, we have a good one. I mean, you know, it won't win any awards, but it will be entertaining, and I get to show off Belize, which is kind of
Nice.
cool, you know. So those are the kind of things that like, you know, you stay in that lane, you stay within that budget, you know, people will support it, you know, this a streaming platform will pick it up, you know, you'll be able to pay back your investors, everybody will make some money, and you can go on to the next one.
Yeah.
Again, this is the most involved that I've been in a film from a producing standpoint.
Oh, wow.
So I'm wearing a few hats. Um, I won't do that again. I won't wear as many hats as I'm having to do now. But a lot of that has come about just because I couldn't afford to hire as many folks as I would need it. I needed to.
Wow.
So um, you know, it's a good education, but it's an education that I only want to have once. So, you know, yeah.
Hey, but it gives you experience, and next time
Yes, yes.
how to go
At
from
least
there.
I know the person. I know what that person is supposed to be doing when I hire them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I have taken a number of your time. I know you're busy. I appreciate you for coming on and talking about your life and working in the industry and working as a producer now and behind the scenes. Uh Dude, this has been an awesome interview. I have been honored to get to talk with you about
Well, thank you for the
stuff that I
opportunity.
love.
Thank you for the opportunity. And, you know, San Antonio isn't too far from Belize. So if you're ever looking for a trip, you want to leave the country and kind of hang out, um, look me up, man.
Oh yeah,
Look me up.
definitely, man. Or if
And
you're ever in San Antonio, man.
yeah, I will. I was going to say, I don't say that just to say that. Um, I truly mean it. If you and your family are ever around or whatever, and come hang out in Belize for a few days. And I would definitely, I go to Houston a lot,
Oh, for real,
um,
nice.
and Dallas, because the people that we work with for our mentoring program down here in Belize,
Oh,
they're
okay, yeah,
based
yeah.
out. Some of them are based out of Dallas,
Oh,
and
nice.
I got invited to be at South by Southwest.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I have to honor that commitment at some point. So I will
So
be
for
in your
next for
state.
for next year?
Yeah.
Oh, well then maybe we can
So
meet up. I
yeah,
actually cover South by Southwest.
nice.
So
Okay,
yeah, maybe we can grab lunch or dinner or something while you're up there while you're here in Austin.
for sure, for sure.
Yes,
I would
sir.
like that. And then, you know, let's stay in touch, man. And I when we do, uh, hopefully when I get this thing done, this movie, I'll send you a link to look at.
Oh, dude,
You
that'd
know,
be awesome.
a teaser, a
Hey, and
screener.
I'll be happy to promote it. And once we can talk about it, I'll post it on Countdown. And for sure, we
All right.
cover
Well,
movies.
I got about 3 or 4 films that are in the can that we will be putting out that I will send your way and have you promote if
Oh
if
yeah.
uh if you can. One is called South Haven. This is based out of a town in Michigan where this actress is from, a big time actress is from, and
Oh
she
wow.
goes back. Um, and I don't want to give it away, but I'll send you a screeners, man, that you can look at
Okay, cool.
and
Yeah.
check out. Yeah. So
Yeah, because we review movies, and that's one thing we do. We interview the producers sometimes, the actors, for
but
indie
yeah,
movies as well.
yeah, and I could send you some folks because it's some pretty um, I won't say A level, but that's that level below,
Yeah.
recognizable faces and the people that have significant social media followings, stuff like
Oh,
that.
wow.
So yeah, so it would be beneficial to both sides. It would
Sweet.
help with your profile on your show, and obviously that the actors and the folks associated with the project, they need to promote as well. So it'd be a win-win.
Sweet. Yeah. And where can people find your, um, if they want to get more information on your, productions and stuff like that, or follow you in general, where people can get a hold of you?
I'm really bad at that, but
I can put the links below because like how I got a hold of you, I can put that down there if they need
yeah,
to.
yeah. I'm on these things. Film Belize
Film
is
release.
my like social media name. Film
Okay.
Belize. Yeah,
All right,
but
cool. I'll add that in
one
there.
word. Yeah, one word. At Film Belize. Hashtag Film Belize. I think that's my IG. Instagram is Film Belize.
Sweet.
Yeah. So.
But thanks again, Nigel, for coming
Okay.
on. I appreciate it. This was an
Man, no,
awesome.
thank you. I wish we could have done it sooner, but I appreciate your patience.
Oh no,
Um,
it was worth the wait.
but all right, you have a good Sunday, and again, thank you.
Thank you, sir. And you have a good
All
Sunday
right,
too.
take care.